weekend, the Global Group, and I saw big Johnny Gilbert just cruising around in the crowd earlier on, so massive thank you to Big John there at the Global Group. Also Billabong Custom Caravans, Andrew and Claire, the owners out there, a massive thank you to those guys for their support, along with the boys from Nispro, and Simon and the boys out there at Nispro do a fantastic job. A few of their product, the Nispro supercharged Yamahas, running here this weekend as well. So massive thank you to those boys for their support over this weekend as well. And then, of course, the boys at Melbourne Cranes. These boats don't put themselves in and out of the water, folks. We need, obviously, the 100-tonner up there. So we've got one of those, Melbourne Cranes. The boys there supplying their services here this weekend. So a massive shout-out to those boys. I believe that was a little bit of a last-minute rescue deal from those guys as well. So huge thank you to the team out at Melbourne Cranes. We've also got the Adopt a Boat program running this weekend, and Frankston Steel have jumped on board the King Cole Racing that are running in the AOPC Championship, along with Merchant, Beaumaris and Motto Produce. They're sponsoring the TCR race team this weekend. Maritimo, I've got some sponsors on board as well with the Adopt a Boat program. Maritimo 11, Stairs in Steel. A big thank you to the team out there at Stairs in Steel. And Maritimo 12 has Sam's Catch Fish and Chippery, and also Rame's Cafe Lounge. So a big thank you to all those wonderful sponsors here this weekend that make the racing possible. The race that we're about to see, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the Australian Offshore Superboat Championship race. And the boats that we will be looking for. We've got basically 3 categories running here this weekend. Supercat Extreme, Maritimo Racing, which is Maritimo 11. Unfortunately, yesterday, Andrew and Ross Willerton. Andrew was actually throttling the boat yesterday. First time for Andrew throttling this particular boat. And normally a very, very competitive boat, but it has had a couple of reliability issues towards the, throughout last season. And unfortunately, yesterday, the boat jumped out of gear as they put the hammer down at the start. And one engine just basically revved itself to oblivion. It broke some push rods in that engine. And unfortunately, they were out of the race before it even began. Good news for Maritimo 11, though. The team, as always, consummate professionals. Spare engine there. They craned a new engine in overnight. And Maritimo with Andrew and Ross Willerton, the father and son combination, will be out and running this morning. Maritimo 12, well, they were just a picture of consistency yesterday. Tom Barry-Cotter and Steve Jellick in the Maritimo 12. Big win yesterday. A very, very comfortable and easy win. We certainly hope it's not that easy for them today as well. There will be a couple of competitors out there trying to make sure that it's not. One of those teams will be the Dynamic Racing. The beautiful red and white Maritimo hull, Andy Smith and Hayden Wild, the pilots of that particular boat. Did a great job yesterday. First time in the boat for those guys, and they look very, very speedy indeed. And so that boat will only show more and more pace as the weekend goes on. So keep your eye on the Dynamic Race. He had an interesting little problem yesterday. Actually finished the race, no problems at all. But one of the bolts that holds the drive to the trim system came out of it as it was on its way back to the pits. So it actually, that drive dropped right down, and unfortunately it meant that they had to do a repair last night. Also damaged that particular propeller. New set of props for those guys. But as always, in true Maritimo style, the team at Maritimo Racing came to the party, helped out the Dynamic team, got new props on the boat, fixed the drive, and they are ready to go again today. In the 525 category, the Team 3 boat, a new crew in that particular boat, Lee Travascus and Matt Humphrey, doing the job there, and they were a bit tentative, I would say, yesterday, and just learning that boat. They'd never raced in it before, so I think we'll see a little bit more out of the Team 3 today. Nispro Marine, not too sure on those guys. I haven't heard what happened to them overnight, and I'm not sure whether that boat is actually back. I know it went back home to Melbourne last night, back to the workshop. I'll try and get an update on Dave Simons and Stewie Ralph for you with the Nispro Marine. Then the Supercat 600 outboard category, which is a Saracen, the TCR Offshore, the Hulk, and the SUV Simrad. Boats that we're looking for. The Hulk, Mick Walker and Paul Foltz absolutely dominated there yesterday in that particular boat. Just could not be caught. They were super quick, and they'll be looking to go again. Saracen, as we mentioned a little bit earlier on with Anthony DeFina and Matt Kelly, lost that drive belt, and they're back on the water, and they reckon they're ready to go. TCR Offshore, broken sandwich plate for those guys in Scott Richardson and Steve Kelly, and they will be getting that boat back together. They've got it back together overnight, and they'll be ready to go. Unfortunately for SUV Simrad, a problem with that boat, not sure what it was, but the good news is I've got the pilot of it up here with me now, so I'll just have a quick chat with Kenny Tree, but before I do that, Dennis wants me, so 1 second. On Nispro, unfortunately, gearbox issues for the boys there and unable to get it sorted out. So that's disappointing that that boat won't be running because 450 horsepower supercharged Yamahas, who doesn't love them? Kenny Tree, welcome to the commentary box.
Thanks very much, Dave.
Mate, you had your first run in the SUV Simrad yesterday. New boat, of course, for you. Boat that's been around for quite some time, obviously, with Con Salamitis, very experienced campaigner. But what happened, please?
Apparently, no, gearbox gone, mate. You know, poor old Connie can't take a trick at the moment. So, any luck Con has, it's bad luck.
The only luck he has. That's disappointing for you, mate. How was it travelling prior to that? I mean, your first foray into the outboard stuff?
Yeah, no, it was good, mate. Puts a different perspective on the smaller boats. You just realise how rough and how tough they do it. So, yeah, it was good for me to try that.
Yeah, you guys in the big boats pretty soft, really, let's be honest.
Yeah, no, you're right, we are.
Hey, Kenny, you joining me in commentary, eh? Is this your spot for the day, is it, son?
Well, might as well, eh? It's a good position up here, good view. So listen to you talk. That's all I, come along for.
You don't sound anything like my wife. Thanks, mate.
All good.
All right, that's Kenny Tree. So we're now live to the World Wide Web as well. So smile, Kenny. They can all see you, son. It's a good-looking rooster, a little bit unlike me, but welcome everybody to the live stream. We certainly hope you enjoyed the racing yesterday. We certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. Today, it's a different day. We've got boats back out on the water. I'm pretty excited about the Maritimo versus Maritimo race here. Tommy Carlisle just handing me a coffee. So there you go, folks. I'm getting well looked after. And it's certainly going to be pretty exciting stuff. Certainly hope that these boys can have a hard charge down into the first corner. Kenny, I was really looking forward to that hard run between the two Maritimo boats and even the Team Dynamic boat. Now that we've seen it run yesterday, it ran really strong down into this first turn. It's going to be pretty exciting.
No, I think so, mate. I think the surprise is going to be the 11 boat. It's so good in the corners and so quick. I think it's going to put on a pretty good show.
The other thing too, I was chatting to Ross Willerton this morning, and Ross was supposed to be steering the boat. Well, he steered it yesterday, but what they did realise was that he can't reach a lot of the controls in the boat from the steering position, so they've actually swapped back. So I think with Ross on the throttles and Andrew doing the steering, they're going to really step up the pace in this boat because they're back doing the jobs that they know how to do.
Well, they're used to each other and how they drive and steer, and that I think they're going to be very competitive, mate.
And mate, what did you think of the? We obviously had the club race here yesterday, or the Victorian Championship for the Australian Offshore Powerboat Club, which we have been racing this. I think this is our third race down here at Wyndham Harbour. Might even be our fourth. Happy hunting ground for me. Of course, I broke my thumb here the one time I raced. But what did you think of in particular, the open cockpit boats going around?
Oh, I loved it, mate. I reckon it was great. I'd love to see them at every race. It would be great for the spectators and for us.
Well, we'll try and get them all to tow their boats up the highway, check their wheel bearings, eh?
That'd be good.
Good on you, Kenny. All right, folks, well, it won't be long now. I make it 10:56, so I've got about 4 minutes to a start. We will be going live out on the course. So Paulie will show you all of that. And away we go. So big thank you again to all of our wonderful sponsors here this weekend. Major sponsors, of course, the Gilbert Group, Billabong, Custom Caravans, Nispro, and Melbourne Crane. Stairs in Steel, Sam's Catch Fishing. Maritimo 12, Tom Barry Cotter and Steve Kellick. Andy Smith and Hayden Wild in the Dynamic Racing. And it's just trying to pick them up now. Here we go. Start boat will bring them down. We'll wait for the Rooster Tails. Goes the call. We're racing as the Rooster Tails drop away now. The boat's starting to pick up speed and we will charge down into turn number one. So the big boats, the three big bangers out there. In fact, Team 3 in the mix as well. Oh, have a look at this. There's a few of them just running. Oh, some interesting lines out here at the moment. Let's see who comes into turn number one in P1. I think it's Maritimo 11. Just a little bit of a hop and a porpoise now as it comes in as we tip down into turn number one. First race here at Wyndham Harbour. Maritimo 11 hits the pin first. Maritimo 12 on the inside. Unbelievable stuff now as they come through. Dynamic racing on the outside of them. Then back to Team 3. Absolutely gunnel to gunnel and deck to deck as they exit turn number one. Down through the bottom turn for the first time for the global group, and they accelerate away. Maritimo 12 now makes a little bit of a break. Now the outboard boats come through. The Hulk with it like a shot dog out of the start line. Back to Saracen and then TCR. So we're away clean in race number 2 here. The Australian Offshore Superboat Championships, round number 1 at Wyndham Harbour. And up the back chute we go. So this battle between the two Maritimo boats is going to be absolutely enthralling here. The 11 now looks like just its nose in front as it goes up through the top turn. Actually just picking up now, and it's the 12 just with its nose just in front at the moment for Motta Produce as they come through the top turn. Now they fire through this short straight, quite a short track here at Wyndham Harbour. Little bit of wind coming through, and you see 12 and 11 gunnel to gunnel as they exit turn number 1 for Stairs in Steel. So Andrew and Ross Willerton really applying the thumb screws now to Tom Barry Cotter and Steve Jellick. Gunnel to gunnel, there's probably a couple of boat links now, so Maritimo 12 starting to make a little bit of a run at it. They had a great run yesterday. Can the 11 run with them? That's going to be the question. This short track, the 11 should be enjoying the corners. Have a look at the little boat on the outside. Absolutely dancing, but it's the 12 now. Maritimo 12. Tom Barry Cotter and Steve Jellick tipping it in hard into the port turn at the bottom end. The 11 around the outside. The Willerton boys, father-son combination. Trying to go with them, but just not quite the pace out of the little boat at the moment. Dynamic Excavations doing a wonderful job there, running up in 3rd spot. Andy Smith and Hayden Wild. So Maritimo 11, sponsored by Stairs in Steel. Maritimo 12, Sam's Catch, Fish and Chippery, and Rameza Cafe Lounge. Team 3 now having a little bit of a lonely run there. Lee Travascus and Matt Humphrey. They look like they're getting that boat cornered just a little bit better than they did yesterday. Hulk Racing now, Mickey Walker and P2, Paul Folds doing a beautiful job, and the 2 Victorian boats look like they're going to be locked in a little bit of a battle here. It doesn't look like they can catch the green machine at the moment, but the good news is they're both up and running with Saracen back to TCR. So the TCR just exiting the bottom turn. Great effort by these boys to get this boat turned around. Some pretty major damage to that boat yesterday, so to get it back out on the water today is a storming effort. And Scott Richardson, one of the real hard workers for the Australian Offshore Powerboat Club, cooks a bloody nice steak too, just quietly, folks, if you can ever get the opportunity for him to do that for you. ASAT Catering is his business, and does a fantastic job with the club. In fact, I tell you what, they're having a little bit of a look up the inside of the Saracen at the moment. That's going to be an interesting battle between the TCR and the Saracen, with TCR on the inside. Storming down the front straight away we go now. Just dancing from sponsor to sponsor. Maritimo 12 just starting to make that little bit of a break now on the Maritimo 11. Tom Barry Cotter and Steve Jellick. They won yesterday. They did it pretty comfortably, but they've got this little boat all over the back of them at the moment. The 2 Willerton boys, Ross and Andrew. Down through the bottom turn, running hard on the pins too. The Maritimo 11 doing a very, very nice job for Sam's Catch, Fish and Chippery. Dynamic Racing for Dynamic Excavations come down through the Billabong Custom Caravans, turn number 1. And Hayden Wild and Andy Smith, only their first weekend in this new boat. It's a Maritimo hull with the Maritimo race engines in it, making around about 850 horsepower per side, carburetted big blocks, as are the same in the 2 Maritimo boats as well. Team 3 now tips down into the bottom turn. Matt Humphrey on the wheel of that boat with Lee Travascus on the throttles. And they look like a much sharper show than yesterday. They were struggling a little bit in this bottom turn yesterday. They were really coming out of the throttle really early and sort of coasting the boat through, but they look like a much sharper show today. Speaking of sharp shows, the Hulk. They were unbeatable yesterday, and they're just going on their merry way. It's a 32-foot shifty catamaran with a pair of 3.2-litre Merc strokers on the transom. Saracen now just trying to hold out the TCR, but I tell you what, Scotty Richardson, he's just having a real look up the inside of Saracen here. Look at him just having to drop into their wash. Saracen just closed the gate, as they're entitled to do, not giving any quarter there. But the TCR definitely having a little bit of a look at the inside of them. Can they get this job done? It's going to be very interesting. The Maritimos come at it again now. For Niz Pro Marine, down into the bottom turn. Tom Barry Cotter, a little bit of a hook there as it just pulls one sponson up out of the water. A bit of a rev from the starboard engine. The 11 runs a little bit wide, gets a little bit tangled up in the wash of the 12. They have to get that boat turned back in again. And they do. And then they go up the inside. They are having a look at every line they possibly can here at the moment. The Willerton boys, they got the bit between their teeth. They haven't given up on this one yet. 7 minutes into this event now. Dynamic. Sounding absolutely that. Beautiful and dynamic. Pretty short straight this front straightaway. Andy Smith and Hayden Wild doing a beautiful job in this boat. Looking absolutely magnificent on the water as the sun comes out. Thank God somebody painted their boat other than blue and white. You love a good red boat, don't you, Paulie? Paulie does, our cameraman. Team 3 having a little bit of a lonely run out here at the moment for Frankston Steel. Just standing up a little bit. So Matt Humphrey and Lee Travascus really starting to get a handle on this beautiful Victory catamaran, the carbon fibre boat running the 525 horsepower Merc Cruiser race engines. Down through the bottom turn, plenty of spray. They're hard on the throttles now. Travascus really with the bit between his teeth. These boys have really got this boat sorted now. It's a much sharper show than it was yesterday, so it's a credit to those boys who've obviously taken a few lessons from yesterday, applied what they know and doing a great job. The Hulk now pushing hard still. Tell you what, this is a tight little battle, and I'll tell you the other thing that's going to happen here is a little bit of traffic is going to come into the fray. Tell you what, Maritimo 12 having a bit of a look at the inside of TCR. You wouldn't think that they'd want to try and stick that thing up the inside of a 600 boat, but we'll just watch this and see what happens. Maritimo 11 are all over the back of them, so they're going to want to try and do everything they can. I would expect the Maritimo 12 to drop to the outside of these guys. But you never know, Tommy could get a bit wild. I don't think he's going to, though. They look like they're going to head up the outside of the 600 horsepower boats. But I tell you what, in all this traffic, TCR having another sneaky little look up the inside of Saracen. This is going to get really interesting between the two Victorian boats. Now Dynamic having a little bit of a lonely run as well, but probably the perfect run for these guys considering only their second race in this boat. First race was yesterday. Coming up to the 10-minute mark of this 30-minute event. Big thank you to Rame's at Cafe Lounge here at Werribee at Wyndham Harbour. Absolutely beautiful spot, folks. If you're watching from home, make sure you get your backside down here. It's a beautiful spot. Plenty to see and do. Bring your boat. There's fuel on the water now. Fuel dock's up and running as well, so it's absolutely fantastic. For Melbourne Cranes, Team 3 tips into the port turn at the bottom end of this beautiful Wyndham Harbour course. They just run a little bit wide on this one, just trying a few different lines here. They're having a bit of a lonely run. You can see the wash of the other boats. They've gone a little wide mid-corner there. They came in, dropped down to 3 or 4 poles. Just trying to maintain some momentum out of that boat. Maritimo 12 just a few seconds made up on that lap. Starting to put a reasonable gap on the Maritimo 11 now. Willerton won't be happy. They'll be trying everything they know how to do to try and get through. Look at how hard that little 6-drive boat turns. Tell you what, the Hulk is being challenged here by Saracen. And it looks like TCR have dropped out the back door just a little bit. So, becoming very interesting out on the course here now. TCR, the beautiful 28-foot skater cat. This boat purchased out of New Zealand by Scott Richardson last year. Looking fantastic on the water, but I think they just lost a bit of ground on that particular lap. We'll keep an eye on this one. They were looking at giving a bit of a challenge here to the Saracen. Steve Kelly won't like it. He doesn't like seeing 600 boats in front of him. I reckon he'll be pushing those sticks out the front of the dashboard at the moment. So, Smith and Wild now. Sounds like a gun, doesn't it? Smith and Wild. The Smith and Wild. Yeah. Doing a beautiful job in the Dynamic Racing for Dynamic Excavations. Andy Smith, former ski racer. Actually won the Southern 80 in a boat called Wild Thing. Got told yesterday it had an 1100 in it, but unlikely. He's more like a 1350 or maybe a 1650. So Maritimo now 12. They're looking pretty sharp at the moment, and you just wonder how these boys are going to be beaten. It's interesting, just porpoising a little bit. Sorry, this is Team 3 coming down now, I should say. Just having a bit of a porpoise there. Maybe just a touch over trimmed, perhaps. Or maybe just the balance just not quite right for that particular run down the front straight. Now Maritimo 12 comes through, so they're about to put a lap on Team 3 and still being hunted by Maritimo 11. Gee, have a look at 12, hard on the pins there. They are not giving the 11 a look in at all. Ross and Andrew Willerton are going to want to do this. They're going to have to either wait for a mistake or they're going to have to try and get around the outside, which would almost be mission impossible. Up the back chute we go, and they're just going to sneak up the inside of the Team 3 there. I hope the Team 3 boys know they're coming. Of course, these boats have mirrors on them, but you know what you see in the mirrors of a race boat? Spray. That's pretty much it. Okay, so not far away now from the halfway mark of this particular race. The Saracen comes through. Still just unable to bridge that gap on the Hulk. TCR, and then TCR are just about to get rounded up by Dynamic as they put a lap on those guys. Dynamic running a course in the Supercat Extreme category and starting to pick up the Supercat outboard category boats. They just drop a little bit wide there, lose a bit of pace there, lose a bit of momentum. So Hayden Wild and Andy Smith go on their merry way, doing a beautiful job in that Dynamic Excavations boat. So everybody's starting to gather up the top end of the course now. Conditions look quite nice out there at the moment. I think most of the teams will be just pushing very, very hard, skipping over most of this. Major sponsors this weekend, of course, the Global Group, Billabong Custom Caravans, Nispro and Melbourne Cranes. Back straight away now, front straight away I should say, and it is Maritimo 12. Port turn down through the bottom turn. Maritimo 11. The Wilton boys, this boat, they carry massive momentum into the corners in this 6-drive boat. This boat, of course, is the boat that they're building to take to the Key West World Championships. So around about 14 minutes and 35 seconds to go in this event for Motta Produce as they fire up the back straight away. Big thank you to my men up here, Boris and Boxer Productions, doing a beautiful job. We hope everybody's doing the live streaming. See a few comments coming through there as well. I'm trying not to pick my nose. Thank you. Oh, Lee Morrow, thanks, mate. He reckons I'm going okay at commentary, so I'll take that every day from Lee. Good on you, mate. As the Hulk now comes down into the bottom turn. Yes, I'll have a latte, please, Dino. Cannon, thank you, mate. Hulk just down through the bottom turn. This could get you in trouble, this live streaming, Bizzo, I reckon. Saracen now just about to be rounded up by Dynamic Racing. Andy Smith pushing his big boat nice and hard with Hayden Wild. Oh, just out of the throttle there a little bit. Gee, they got off it. Back on it again. Saracen just on the inside. Saracen have made a pretty good break now on TCR. In fact, TCR look like they've come off the pace a little bit to me with Steve Kelly and Scotty Richardson. I hope there's no problems for that boat. As I said, a massive amount of work went into that boat overnight last night. It broke a sandwich plate, which is the aluminium housing between the actual power head of the engine and the trunk. Actually broke. And it's a massive job to fix that. They have to basically disassemble the entire engine, fit the new sandwich plate, and then reassemble the whole engine. So a great effort for them to get the boat back onto the water. Maritimo 12, still on the hard charge. Maritimo 11. Still just can't bridge that gap. The Willerton boys, they're not losing any ground, but they can't make it either. So just early stages of this race where they lost that little bit of ground and now they just don't seem to be able to claw it back. Team 3 looking good. They've had a lap put on them, running the 525 Mercruisers. Australian Offshore Powerboat Club will be bringing you the next race on today's card, ladies and gentlemen, which is part of the Victorian Championship. And we'll see lots of great action like we saw yesterday. In fact, my old mate Sammy Lucas supplying some brilliant photos in his little 1750 bull at the Anger Management yesterday. And jump on to EMB Photographics on Facebook. You can see all the wonderful photos from yesterday's racing. Reg catches all the great action out here on the course and does a great job. Down the front chute and that little rocket ship. The Hulk now, Mickey Walker and P2 Paul Folds. Tip into the port turn at the bottom end of this beautiful Werribee course. Wyndham Harbour, Victoria, Australia. This is round number 1 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championships. And I'll tell you what, Team Dynamic Racing actually having a little bit of a hard time getting around this little rocket ship now. So the Supercat Extreme boat being given a little bit of hurry up now, although they are putting a lap on the Hulk. The Hulk boys have seen it and they don't want to get past. Saracen, Defina and Kelly. So we've got Matthew Kelly in the Saracen. He is, of course, Steve Kelly's brother. Steve running in the TCR, just being rounded up by Maritimo 11. Gee, the Maritimo 11 sits super flat and turns in very hard. The number 6 drives tend to turn in a little bit harder than the shaft-driven boats. It's the only 6-drive boat racing in Australia currently. These drives used extensively in the US, and in fact, the category that they race this boat in the US is strictly number 6 Mercury drives, and that's the reason that this boat has been built in this configuration to compete in the World Championships in the United States and Key West, and basically using the Australian Championship as a test bed for their international operations. Team 3 now run through, doing a nice job. As I said, Matt Humphrey and Lee Travascus still getting used to this boat, still getting it dialed in. It's only their second race. As they fire up the back chute. For Melbourne Cranes, big thank you to the team out at Melbourne Cranes as well. As I said earlier, these boats don't put themselves in and out of the water by themselves. And we need the Cranes, and they've been a wonderful help here this weekend. Nispro Marine, Billabong Custom Caravans, and Global Group, all of our major sponsors. We are here at Wyndham Harbour for round number 2 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championships. And Dynamic Racing just charged down through the bottom turn, just having a look up the top end of the course now. And it's still the Maritimos going at it. Maritimo 12 just accelerating hard out of the top turn, really standing up. The Hulk continues on their merry way around the course as well. Stairs in Steel and Boris the Boxer Productions, also great supporters here this weekend as we pick up on the Maritimo 12 and the Maritimo 11 on your screen now. Around about 9 minutes left to run in this 30-minute event. Of course, these races all run under the auspices of the APBA, the Australian Powerboat Association. And the two Maritimos still just absolutely going at it at the moment. I can assure you, folks, there are no team orders in this crew. The Willerton boys will be desperately trying to bridge that gap, but at the moment, Tom Barry Cotter and Steve Jellick just being absolute perfection out there at the moment, not putting a foot wrong. TCR just coming down through the bottom turn. Boat number 161. 28-foot skater for Rome's Cafe Lounge. Down through the bottom turn. Team 3, again having still a bit of a lonely run, but they're certainly a lot nicer show than they were yesterday. ASAT Catering. As Team 3 just accelerates away. So they're really starting to nail their corners now for Motta Produce. Team 3, Matt Humphrey and Lee Travascus getting it done nicely for Frankston Steel. Oh, and we got drama here. What's going on? The boat running in second place in the 600 horsepower category. They had a belt come off yesterday, and Saracen, with around about 7.5 minutes left to run in this race, have come right off the pace. Unbelievable stuff. This boat normally super reliable. And Anthony DeFina and Matt Kelly, as Dynamic Excavations, Dynamic Racing goes around the outside. Wow, can they continue on and get it done? They've still got 7 minutes of racing left. Can the Saracen hold on? Will the TCR get them? The Hulk's going to come around and put a lap on them as we watch the two Maritimos still slugging it out. Mick Walker and Paul Folds, they're just loving life out there at the moment in the green machine. Beautiful shifty catamaran with a pair of 3.2 litre stroke and Mercury Optimax XS's on the transom. Fire up the back chute. Just getting it done very, very clinically at the moment. I'm keeping my eye out also for TCR. I can't see them on the course at the moment. Is that them up on the inside perhaps, up top corner? Trying to pick them up. And yep, there's TCR there. So for Harrop Engineering, TCR still running strong. Now they have got an opportunity here to get round Saracen because Saracen's come right off the pace. Team 3 just rips around the outside of them, but TCR looks like it's still running strong. Having said that, their pace eased a little bit and they allowed the gap to open up, but certainly now he's a lot speedier than the Saracen. The Saracen, I would say, are on one engine now. With 5 minutes and 40 seconds to run, can the Saracen hold off the TCR? They've got a big gap to try and make up. So this is going to be an interesting one. Dynamic Racing now. Storms down the front straight away. Timmy, they need to be a bit careful here. They're about to have a lap put on them by this boat. The Maritimo 12 just sneaking up through behind them now. And Maritimo 11 still just snapping at their heels. So hopefully Andy Smith and Hayden Wild have a quick look in the mirrors and get a glimpse of the big Maritimo 12 coming for them, because Tom Barry Cotter and Steve Jellick are certainly looking at the inside of them at the moment. In fact, they're pretty comfortably on the inside of them. So let's hope the Dynamic boys know they're there and don't shut the door on them up the top corner. We'll keep an eye on this one. They managed to get up alongside, so they'll know they're there now. So beautifully done there by Maritimo 12. Hulk down through the bottom turn. Very, very comfortably leading the 600 horsepower category now. Big Mickey Walker, he's the most laconic, laid-back guy you'll ever come across in offshore powerboat racing. A ripping bloke. The farmer from Queensland. Just getting it done nice. He does a bit of ski racing, has done in the past as well. You find a lot of these guys cross over. Hayden Wild, of course, a ski racer as well, as too Andy Smith, as I said earlier on, has won a Southern 80. So a lot of these guys like to mix it up in their boat racing and ski racing and try a little bit of everything. But Sam Lucas here this weekend that done everything, done it all. offshore circuit, ski racing, the lot, all in that little 1750 Bullet that he ran around in yesterday. So be great to see him back out on the water in the next race as we pick up on Maritimo 12 just on the exit of turn number 2, and they go around the outside of Saracen. Saracen in Struggle Town now, and will TCR grab hold of them and overhaul them? Maritimo 11 still just can't bridge that gap, but gee, it turns in hard. It looks fast. I think they've got better entry speed than the Maritimo 12, but the Maritimo 12 seems to have better exit and also better top end down the straights. And you'd have to say Saracen on one engine. Here's a problem as well, Dynamic Racing. They have got drama. They have slowed considerably. So after travelling so well with around about 2.5 minutes left to run, we'll be seeing a checkered flag coming out fairly soon. Dynamic, can they hold on? They've got drama everywhere as well. So they're dropping like flies now. Don't forget though, folks, next race on the card is our Australian Offshore Powerboat Club race, and we saw plenty of action in that one yesterday, and we will see the same again today. I've no doubt about that. TCR actually turning around and heading back out in the next race as well. So let's hope that they're up and running strong still. Here's a boat that should be out running in the AOPC race as well, because they've just been so reliable and so quick. The Hulk down through the bottom turn and just sounding absolutely beautiful. Listen to the props just jumping out of the water there as it just dances from sponsor to sponsor. P2, Paul Folds. An absolute hard charger along with Mickey Walker. The wild man, Mick Walker. He's a bit like me. There's not a bone in his body he hasn't broken through racing stuff. Last time he crashed a jet ski and broke his hip. Now he's a loose unit. But he loves it. Keeps coming back. The Maritimos continue to slug it out. Maritimo 12, Tom Barry-Cotter, Steve Jellick. This could be potentially their last or second last lap with around about 1:14 left to run in this race. Team 3 down through the bottom turn. They're still running strong. Okay, with around about 55 seconds left to run, we've just heard that Maritimo 12 will be on their last lap. TCR still running strong. Can they get around the Saracen though? That's the question. So TCR firing up the back chute. Saracen are up the top corner. We'll need confirmation on that one. There's a massive gap there. I'm not sure whether TCR hasn't already snuck past him and looking at maybe putting a lap on him. We'll get that confirmed for you, folks. But we'll call it as we see it at the moment. Big thank you to Sam's Catch, Fish and Chippery. That's my lunch today, boys. I'll give you the tip. Oh, yeah. Benny's onto it. So, Dynamic now. They've certainly got a problem in this boat. They just need to limp it home. They're running in third spot at the moment. It'll be good points towards the championship. They came in second spot yesterday to the Maritimo 12. Down through the bottom turn. So, checkered flag comes out, ladies and gentlemen. Get up on your toes because Maritimo 12 have absolutely dominated here today. Tom Barry-Cotter and Steve Jellick. And your winner of the 600 horsepower category, the Hulk. Keep it coming for them. And into second place, Maritimo 11. With Andrew Ross Willerton. The Hulk, of course, with Mick Walker and Paul Folds taking the win in 600 horsepower. For the global group of companies, Billabong Custom Caravans, Nispro and Melbourne Cranes. Put your hands together. Team 3 coming through to complete the course. Matt Humphrey and Lee Travascus. And I tell you what, either way, whether they'd lapped them previous or not, TCR has gone round Saracen, so they'll pick up second place. Give it up for the team of TCR, Scott Richardson and Steve Kelly. And limping the wounded Saracen home. They'll collect the points. Put your hands together, please, ladies and gentlemen, for Anthony Defina and Matthew Kelly in the Saracen, a wounded Saracen. Let's hope they can get that boat turned around and back on the water.